Filming on location today in Spring Canyon, outside Cladcroft, New Mexico. Again in the Lincoln National Forest. Last few days of summer, starting to see the first yellow leaves on the aspens. Hi folks, Dan with High Country again, back with another episode of Intro to Backpacking, or Backpacking 101. Before we do that, I want to share what I think is an amusing aside with you. I'm relatively new to video. I played with it back in the 1980s when camcorders were this big and weighed 30 pounds, but not so much since then, and not digital at all. It's been a larger production than I thought it was going to be. You've got to set aside the time to do it. Make sure you've got your gear with you, your camera, your backup camera, tripod, backup tripod, microphone, backup microphone, everything you're going to display for the video. Then you've got to actually drive there and get it done. It's just a bigger commitment than I thought it was. However, I've just had what I think is the most frustrating one, and that is when you invest the time, go out and get it done, then come home to find out that the lion's share of your video is lost from a corrupted file. Oh, the terrible utterances that escaped from my lips, the foul language. I swore great and terrible oaths to the dark forest gods of my ancestry. Apoplectic with rage, I think, is apropos for the situation. In any case, rant over and let's move on. Today's episode of Backpacking 101 is going to be on sleeping bags, the various types of sleeping bags, some of their qualities, some of the things you want to look for, and then potentially avoid when you're buying one. So sleeping bags it is. Let's get on with it. All right, we have before us a selection of 4 sleeping bags, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one. We're going to start on what is your left, and that is the kind of checkerboard looking one. That is a rectangular bag, which we'll discuss more in a minute. In the middle, we have 2 different types of mummy bags, and I'll tell you a little about those. And on the far right-hand side, we've got an interesting bag, which I really won't include for anything other than the fact that it's an interesting bag. So let's get a little closer, and we'll talk more about each of these bags. All right, let's talk about our first kind of sleeping bag. This is known as a rectangle bag because, well, it's shaped like a rectangle. They're very simple. That means they're going to be open at the top, all the way across. This happens to be my very first sleeping bag. This is the bag that got me into backpacking and camping. The cut denim pattern was all the rage in about 1976 or 77 when I got this. Anyway, this is what's called a commercial store bag. These are fairly lightweight. They're spring, summer, fall bag. Certainly not something you want to count on in very cold weather. In addition, this is a cloth material. This may even be cotton, and they get wet in a hurry and they take forever to dry out. A wet sleeping bag has no insulation value whatsoever. So you do want to be careful. However, the advantage to these is they are available anywhere. Big box store X all over the world has got these in there for 14 to 25 bucks. And they will serve you in a pinch. You can find them at garage sales even cheaper than that. They are going to be a little colder than most bags because they don't seal. They are open all the way around, but they're easy to get in and out of. And there are people who feel claustrophobic in the next type of bag, which we're going to discuss. But there's a general overview. Rectangle shape. You can get these in high dollar bags. Most high dollar bags are going to be of the mummy style, which we'll cover next. So the general proportion of rectangular bags you see are going to be what we call box store bags. And they're great for starting, but they're not great camping bags no matter what. So let's move on to mummy bags. Let's get into the next kind of sleeping bag we're going to discuss. And this one is called a mummy bag. And the reason for that is simple. They've got a hood, just like a hoodie sweatshirt or something of that nature. And when you get them on and get it over your head, imagine King Tut's mummy laying there all covered in gold and everything's hidden except his face. That's what you're going to look like in a mummy bag, hence the name mummy bag. Now I'm showing this one for a reason. This is what I would consider your entry-level mummy bags. This is a military surplus bag. It is Belgian Army, early 1970s as I recall. I bought it for $24, $26, something like that in 1996. And it has given me very good service since then. It's still serviceable after over 45 years. It is a 3-layer bag. There's an external layer, which will help keep the bag clean and dry from the outside. The bottom is synthetic and can be sprayed with, say, a Thompson's water seal or something like that. There's an inner layer to provide some warmth. And the final inside layer is a thinner layer, which will also provide a little warmth, but it serves to keep your bag clean. When the bag starts to get dirty, it's on the liner, not the bag itself. And this is thinner, easy to wash. You can just throw it in like Levi's or whatever. So, advantages. Because it's a mummy bag and seals around your head and shoulders, you'll have less heat loss. And even in a temperature rating bag, which we'll discuss later in this video, even in a bag that's, say, temperature rated for 50 degrees, one more layer will add about 10 degrees to that. So this 3-layer bag gives you a little bit more warmth. It is not a true winter bag, although I did once go on a backpacking trip that I woke up with about 2 inches of snow on my chest and slept just fine. So it will certainly serve at least down into the high 20s. This one has been a great bag for me. Here's the drawbacks. Because there is still natural fabric in there, there's cloth, and it's not truly waterproof, it can get wet, just like the box store bags we were discussing. And as I mentioned, they have very little insulative value when they're wet. The other thing is this is a big, heavy bag. It is a 6.5 pound bag. Military things are meant to be durable, for the most part, not meant to be the lightest they can possibly be. So I think if you get one of these, you'll be very happy with them. I think you can still find them out there at reasonable prices, not necessarily Belgian, but a military surplus bag. And I think you'll be happy with it. They're very durable. They will keep you warm. They are big and heavy. And I think you'll be satisfied in the short term, but in the long run, you'll be looking for something a little lighter and smaller. So let's go to the next type of bag. All right, now we're going to move into what I would consider a full-on legitimate backpacking camping type bag. Now, I harp on this a lot. I don't like to spend a lot of money on these things if I can avoid it, but there are a few things where you get what you pay for. I mentioned that with stoves, with good brand Swiss Army knives, and I'm going to mention it with sleeping bags. This is a Kelty Lightyear. I've had it 15 or 16 years. I believe they're out of production now. This is what's known as a 15-degree bag, and here's where we're going to talk about temperature rating. For many, many years, there was no real standard on temperature rating. A manufacturer could claim that it was a 30-degree bag, a 50-degree bag, whatever they wanted, and there was no way to really confirm that. Now let's talk about what that means. And again, it's a bit ephemeral. Everyone's got their own definition here. Apparently there is now a national standard, but I still don't buy it. I'm sorry, I've been doing this a long time and I don't buy it. I think it's mostly marketing. They did something for lip service. Well, we've got a standard now. Sorry, not buying it. So what does a 30-degree bag or a 15-degree bag mean? Well, it means you're supposed to be comfortable in that bag down to that temperature. Now, does that mean you're going to be comfortable in that bag nude? Or does that mean you've got to have on a woolly hat and your wool socks and long johns to be comfortable in that temperature? I cannot really tell you. What I will tell you is this. The more expensive bag you get, and God, I hate to feed the money machine, but the more you pay for your bag, the closer it's going to be to temperature rating. I spent a night in this bag at 16 degrees in the Gila Wilderness, and I was not the slightest bit cold. I was in a t-shirt and BDU pants that night. I think regular hiking socks. Nothing. I wasn't dressing for warmth in my bag. It was 16 degrees, and I slept like a baby. So this 15-degree bag did live up to its rating. Be careful with that. Assume that whatever the temperature rating is on the bag, it is not actually going to be that warm. As I mentioned earlier, every layer adds a little bit more. So if you've got a 25 or 30 degree bag and you think it may be 25 or 30 degrees where you're going, I would add another layer. And the simple way to do that is to take a bed sheet, just a regular sheet from your bed, take it with you, put it inside your bag, one part under you, one part over you, roll it over you just like you would a blanket at home, and that'll add 8 to 10 degrees to the warmth of your bag. It's a great, cheap way to do it. It will also help keep the inside of your bag a little bit cleaner. So let's talk about this bag, the Kelty Lightyear. This is, you get some things when you move up. This bag weighs a little bit less than 2 pounds, and I neglected to bring my compression sack with me or I would show you, but it compresses to the size of a loaf of bread. So now instead of this, you've got a loaf of bread that weighs less than 2 pounds. It is a mummy bag, so you're still got your hood when you need to get all that warmth that you possibly can. It does have a drawstring around the face, so you can tie it even tighter, have just your mouth and nose out to breathe. You get some other advantages with a higher dollar bag. This has a zipper at the foot. Here's something to keep in mind. Not every night on the trail is going to be the same temperature. Just because it's going to be 25 or 30 one night, it may be 60 the next night, and this bag could be serious overkill. So you want the ability to unzip the side, the foot, get out of the hoodie to get some ventilation. This is an excellent bag. I got caught in a rainstorm in a borrowed tent. I woke up in about a half an inch of water, and I was bone dry inside the bag. It is so waterproof that in order to get it to wash in the washer, I have to put a set of Levi's inside it. I do apologize for the noise. We're in the flight path of Holloman Air Force Base, and what you're hearing is F-16 fighters. So I do apologize for that. In any case, I have to put a set of Levi's inside it to get it enough weight to get it down in the water because it's that waterproof. It has been an excellent, excellent bag. I can't say enough about it. However, it is pricey. And if you don't have, $200 plus, you really just can't step into one of these kind of bags. If someone's telling you they've got a bag that's equivalent quality for $110, I'm calling them a liar. I'll go ahead and do it right now. There are a bunch of brands out there. Kelty is the one that I bought, and I won't buy another until I need one. Now, there are synthetic fill, which is exactly what it sounds like. They are man-made materials, man-made fibers of different thickness and density, and that's where you get your temperature rating from. This one is actually a down bag. It is a goose down bag. Now, I believe that down is warmer ounce per ounce than synthetic fibers. That is my personal belief. I don't have studies to back that up. It's just years and years of sleep in different bags. I believe down is warmer. You'll notice this one's got lines in it. Those are tubes. It's stitching to keep the down from bunching up at the feet or something of that nature. It'll keep the down where it's supposed to be. Now, there is another more modern thing, and it's called a quilt instead of a sleeping bag. Now, everybody knows what a quilt is. It's the same thing you've got at home. But these are backpacking quilts. They're very light. They're generally down-filled. They're going to be a little smaller than a sleeping bag. Now, I do not have one. I have slept in quilts when I'm backpacking before, and they do not work for me. I am a night crawler. If I'm not in my bag 2 or 3 times during the night, I will be uncovered and cold. So quilts don't work for me. I'm not going to lecture you on them because I have no personal experience. But they are out there, and they are a little less expensive for the most part than bags. Now, let me give you a caution point here. Just because I said you need to spend a little bit of money on a bag doesn't mean you need to go out and throw a fortune at a bag. We're going to discuss later ultralight packers versus some other things, but if you're getting down to 2.5 pounds on a sleeping bag, don't spend another $200 to take another pound off of it. All right, this isn't an ego contest to show your buddy that I've got a $600 sleeping bag. Get a good quality bag. Look for one that is water resistant, water repellent. That'll be on the label. Look for one that's from a reputable brand. You can get online to any one of a number of backpacking forums. I'm not going to recommend a bunch of companies. That Kelty just happens to be the one I have. But somewhere between $200 and $300, you can get all the sleeping bag you're going to need unless you're going to do something very special purpose. So that's a discussion of temperature rating, mummy bags. Let's move on to the one unusual bag I wanted to show you, and then we'll wrap this up. Last on our sleeping bag list today is the oddity that I discussed. This is a very unusual item. They were relatively common in the late 1940s through the late 1950s. And this is actually a paper sleeping bag. And yes, I did say paper sleeping bag. It's got a layer of cloth up here at the end to get around your neck and tuck you in a little bit. But other than that, it is just multiple layers of woven, stitched paper. It's very heavy duty. It all comes in a roll. These were originally for Civil Air Patrol. That is my impression, what I've learned about them. Civil Air Patrol would carry them, and if you were crashed somewhere, they could literally throw it out the window to you, and you'd at least have a sleeping bag for the night. I acquired 2 of these, and I did spend a night in one once, and by golly, it's a sleeping bag. I wouldn't want to be out in freezing temps, but it's certainly better than no bag at all. It's just a super cool concept. They were later marketed to civilians as a disposable sleeping bag. And I remember the slogan, it's so cheap you can just burn it in the campfire when you're done. Which we wouldn't consider environmentally responsible today, but it was acceptable in the 50s. So let me show you something cool about this. It basically just, the cloth tucks inside, and then this whole thing rolls up into a tube. Now, it was wrapped in this heavy oiled paper and then taped shut. And they could just hurl this out the door of an aircraft to you if you were in a crash site somewhere. Very, very cool concept. It's, again, not something I'd want to use as my primary bag, but I just thought you would find it interesting. I've got a little bit of a collection of backpacking and camping oddities, and this is one of them. So, paper sleeping bag. If you thought you'd never see such a thing, now you have. All right, folks, so there's a general overview on sleeping bags for Backpacking 101. Let's go back and catch a couple of the important points. You really have 2 types of bags. That is rectangular and mummy. Rectangle is going to be exactly as the shape suggests, a rectangle. They will be open at the top, across the shoulders and the head. The zipper will generally go at least halfway, if not all the way down on the side. There are high-dollar rectangle bags out there, but for the most part, they are going to be low-dollar box store type bags with poor quality materials and poor heat preservation. Your temperature rating is just not going to be that great. Personally, if I've got $40 to $50 to spend on a box store rectangle bag, I would go out and buy military surplus. You get a better investment. They're going to be better quality, they're going to be more durable, and they're going to be warmer pound for pound than civilian box store rectangle bags. So that's rectangle bags. Mummy bags. Folks, they sell cheap mummy bags too, right next to the cheap rectangle bags. So just because it's a $49 mummy doesn't mean it's a quality bag. Is it going to be warmer than the equivalent rectangle bag? Yes, because it's got the head and neck protection, but that doesn't mean it's a good bag. So what is it you're trying to buy if you're going to go out and buy a sleeping bag tomorrow? If I'm looking at a good bag tomorrow, I'm going to plan on spending between $200 and $350. You can catch them on sale, maybe get it on at $189 or something, but don't go past $350 unless you're doing something really extreme. It's just crazy to spend that kind of money. I'm going to be looking for an exterior fabric, which is water repellent or waterproof, direct from the manufacturer. I'm going to be looking for down as opposed to synthetic, although that's not a showstopper. I would consider synthetic under the right circumstances at the right price. I will want at least a half zip on the side, meaning the zipper will come at least halfway down the length of the bag. Full zip is even better, makes exiting and entering a little easier, and you can also get better ventilation. I would also be looking for a zipper at the foot pocket, again for insulation. If you can find one that has a removable liner, that's great. It keeps your bag cleaner and it will last longer. You won't wear the interior of the bag as much, you'll wear the liner instead. So $200, waterproof nylon exterior fabric or whatever exterior fabric besides nylon. Down filling, half zip minimum on the side, zipper on the foot pocket. That's what I'm telling you. Anyway, I hope this has been beneficial to you, perhaps educational, and you've taken a little something away from it. If you have, we hope you'll come back and see us. I'm Dan from High Country. We'll catch you next time.